Justin, can you begin by providing a brief overview of Datalytics?
Sure. So Datalytics is a UK-based analytics organization that specializes in data and analytics and helping organizations become data-driven in terms of how they operate and how they run. We've been running for about 8 years now. We're primarily based in London, where we've got half the team, and we've got the other half of the team out near Camberley in the Thames Valley. And I guess the place that we've been playing into is that specialist provider of data and analytics services into UK corporates and mid-tier organizations. And really helping them to get on top of the challenge that they face around data, which as much as it's focused around how to visualize and how to derive insight out of the data, the bigger end of that challenge has been the mechanics and the plumbing around getting high quality, good data out of core systems into a centralized place where they can enrich it with big data and real-time data and then try to drive the answers or enable the business to get the answers to the questions that it needs to provide. So UK-based data and analytics organization specializing really in mid-market.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sponsoring CAMS UK. And you've just actually ran a session called If You're Not Data First, You're Data Last.
Yeah.
Can you provide some insight on the nature of that discussion?
Yeah, so I guess the whole premise of the session today is that as much as we can, legacy environments is where you've had quite a highly engineered data architecture and data infrastructure, and they still persist today. They're largely on premise. They're largely quite well engineered, so it means they're quite rigid and not very agile. And the challenge today is getting the right data in the right hands at the right time to enable organizations to be more agile and to derive greater value and to be more innovative. So I guess the focus of the session today was less around what's your IT strategy in terms of how you deliver data, but what is your corporate strategy around data, and has data now been defined as a critical business asset, and if it has, to what level of sponsorship has that at an executive team, and have you got that sponsorship in the organization, and is that now going down through the organization through mid-management? So it's what's that corporate strategy around data and how are you driving it through the organization?
It may sound like a silly question, but why is that important?
Well, because the top-down approach and the one where there's executive sponsorship and a recognition of that data is at its core, tends to break down the barriers that exist whenever you try to come bottom up. When you come bottom up, the data is owned by the systems owners, by the functions, by the groups, and therefore it tends to remain siloed, difficult to pull together. There's no overriding decision that's been coming from the top as to why we are doing this. So having a corporate data strategy, define it as a business asset, having the executives teams and management teams, the business teams, owning the fact that what the structures are and how they should use and how they should define that data, removes that away from the system owners and therefore enables the business to derive more value from the data that's available to them, whether it's internal to their organization or that they can bring in and enrich with external data.
So following the session, what do you ultimately want the participants to go back to the office and do tomorrow?
I think, one of the things that we want them to take away and to do is to ensure that when they go back into the organization, and if they are on a strategy to become data-driven, that they ensure that that's not being driven from a purely systems and technology basis, because it's likely to fall short of the intentions that the project has. So what we would like them to go back and do is make sure that they have very clear understanding of what the big business questions and the little business questions are they're aiming to answer from that data strategy or that data first strategy. That's well defined and well understood within the business and the business owners. That is then becomes a shared understanding between the business teams and the IT teams that are trying to facilitate that there's a clear understanding around that. and that then they prioritize the data that they start to bring into their data lake or their data warehouse based on the priorities and the benefits that they're going to get from those questions, and therefore focus the efforts around getting the right data at the right time into the central in the right order, so that they can show value, show wins, garner support, and then give that data strategy the impetus and the ingredients that it needs to be successful within the organization.